I help naturally quiet people to overcome social anxiety and play to their strengths in life. So I'm excited to do this relatively quick YouTube live stream on the topic of choosing to be the hero rather than sink into victim complex with respect to challenges that we all face in life. I know that quite a number of people have been through significant challenges in childhood, whether it's abuse, bullying, parents who are manipulative, gaslighting, whatever the challenges that you've been through. And that can make it difficult to really live your best life because you're caught in the pain of your challenges. Life can feel unfair, and you might conclude that you're a victim of your circumstances and you can't win, so there's no point in trying. You might conclude that. That was a conclusion that I mistakenly came to when I was younger. But the truth is, if you can find the strength and courage to forgive and overcome your past and live your best life in spite of your challenges, it's quite amazing what you can achieve. And I view going through past challenges, emotional, mental challenges, it puts you in a pressured situation where you can either go a lot worse or get a lot better. It's like you're carrying a weighted rucksack of emotional baggage, and the weighted rucksack makes it harder to be yourself. But on the flip side, it makes you a lot stronger. And the pain can be used as a great motivator to turn your life around and achieve amazing things. People that haven't been through significant challenges and difficulties, they tend to lack the motivation to be 100% committed to their purpose in life, to being themselves, living fearlessly. And being fully committed is one of the most important factors when it comes to succeeding in any area of life. How many people do you know that want to get fit and healthy, join a gym, and they train for 3 months and fizzle out? I mean, now we're in March. I wonder how many people are still sticking to their New Year's resolutions. It's the same story with diet. People start with the best intentions and fizzle out. But if you can use your past challenges as a motivator, you can be so committed that you don't lose because you're quitting far too early. You stick to things long enough to see results in the real world. So I'll give you a recent and fresh example of how I personally use pain to achieve more success rather than sink into victimhood. So I love my parents and I honor my parents. They're both great and they have lots of positive, kind, and helpful qualities. But I would be lying if I said they don't also have toxic behaviors and there isn't some abusive patterns. So my dad does lots of very, very kind things, but he can also be highly critical, negative, guilt trip, all kinds of behaviors that, if I allowed them to, would drag me down. Even yesterday. So I went back to Manchester on actually Saturday evening. I had a coaching session there on Sunday, and had a roast dinner with my parents for Mother's Day. Really enjoyed this. Was nice to catch up, have a laugh and joke, etc. I got to see their good side. Then my dad very kindly offered me a lift back, and I accepted. Then I immediately regretted when I could see the darker, more twisted side coming out, the criticism, negativity, making up bad things about coaching. I wasn't sure if there was a calculated lie at some point in the conversation, a bit of an agenda, trying to make me feel bad or guilty for pursuing my purpose in life. But I know that parents want to keep you safe, and sometimes parents can be toxic and even manipulative in an attempt to do that. So I use that pain as a motivator when I went for my run today. So I went for a run, then did my gym workout, then ran back, and that pain allowed me to push further and get better results. Hey Taran, actually really fitting that you've come on this live stream right now. So interestingly, I did an Instagram live stream earlier and Corey came on that live stream. And right now I'm talking about challenges with parents. Because, so I know when I'm coaching you, family members can be incredibly challenging because even though they have positive qualities, they have toxic qualities as well, many family members. And you can be forced, exactly, talking about things that people are uncomfortable talking about. You can be forced to spend time with people that have toxic behaviors. And if they were friends, you could just easily cut them out of your life, no problem. But because they're loved ones, you have to spend some time with them, and that's where you have to be careful. So I found this to be the case. I don't know if you agree or not, Taran, but sometimes in groups, certain family members can be okay with the right crowd, the right people, in the right atmosphere, but one-on-one, they can be more challenging to deal with. It probably depends on the person, but in my case, if I'm spending time with both of my parents and brother together, it's really, really good. So we have a laugh and joke, it's nice and light. But then if it's one-on-one, then it's challenging and the kind of twisted, toxic, manipulative behaviors come out. And that can leave me feeling drained if I'm not careful. So something that I've learned is that having time boundaries with parents is essential for me personally and with family members, but that is not enough on its own because you have to also manage the situations and environments that you put yourself into. So I know that one-on-one, even though my dad has lots of positive qualities, probably 90% of the things he says are negative and critical. I would say that's fair and accurate, about 90%. And I'm glad that you come into the YouTube live stream, Taran. It's good to catch up. I look forward to having a conversation over the phone as well later in the week. So there's a lot of negativity and complaining, and I find that draining to be around because I'm a positive person. So I don't spend my time complaining about health, the weather, other people. Instead, I focus on enjoying my life, moving forwards, and helping other people to do the same. So something that I learned from improv comedy that ties in here is that there's only two possibilities in a social interaction. You're either taking energy from somebody else or giving energy. Yeah, exactly. So basically, Taron, because of the settings on my phone, I see your messages flash up for a second, then they go off. So I'm not having time to fully read them. I can see it now, so depends on the context. I agree. And there's so many factors at play. So if you're around certain family members and you're in a good mood, they're in a good mood, and the context is to your favor, you can actually have a nice chat and genuinely get on with these people. But then in another context, certain behaviors come out, certain dynamics that are unfair and unkind. It could be shaming, it could be guilt tripping. Basically, as I was saying before, you're either taking or giving, and I'm always giving. And if I find myself taking, I immediately snap out of the victimhood and get back to giving. So there's only two stances in a social situation. There's no neutral. You're either taking or giving. And what that means is that if you come away from a social interaction feeling drained, the other person might have been taken. Exactly. So what you said is that around your auntie and uncle, if there's certain other people around, it's actually okay. And they can act like a buffer and protect you, and the overall energy of the group is improved. So, in other words, you want to gain energy from the group and be giving to the group. That's the ideal. And if certain people are toxic in certain groups, you want to get away from those groups. But if you can find yourself in situations where it brings out a more positive side in these people, maybe because the group is made up of a good mixture of people, an overall good dynamic, it can actually be a more pleasant experience. You can relax, let your guard down, and actually enjoy yourself. For me, um, hmm. So, so if I'm right, what you're saying is sometimes if it's just you and you've got your auntie and uncle, because there's not other people around, you see a different side to their personality. And what kind of behaviors would you say they do that really drain you? So I can mention some of the examples of behaviors that I find quite draining personally. So if I was one on one with somebody and they were talking really negatively about somebody else, that would drain me. So what you're saying is if you're around your auntie and uncle and it's just you, they can actually be quite rude and blunt and say things which are unfair because they can get away with it. But with other people around, other people kind of police them in the conversation. That's very, very, very interesting. So if somebody has that side to their personality where they can be quite cold and blunt and rude one on one, of course, and you want to minimize the amount of time that you spend with this person. And whenever you find yourself one on one, you want to be really, really good at ending that conversation as early as possible and moving on to a different situation, minimizing time you spend with these people and with this toxic behavior. I'm not saying that every time you speak to somebody, you should always come away feeling uplifted. That would be ideal, but the truth is that everybody has a down day. Everybody's in a bad mood sometimes. But what I'm talking about is patterns. So if a large percentage of the time you find yourself drained around a certain person, rather than keep spending time with that person and take on their pain, instead choose to be the hero rather than the victim and put a boundary up against that person. Stop spending time with them, cut them out of your life if you can. This makes your task easier. So I used the analogy before of going through these challenges is a bit like carrying an emotional and weighted rucksack around with you, more challenges to deal with. And if you can cut toxic people out of your life, find ways to minimize the time you spend with them, change the subjects, use all these different tools, you're basically taking weight out of that bag. You're reducing the emotional baggage that you have to carry around with you because you're not allowing toxic people to take their pain out on you. A question you can ask yourself to work out if someone is being abusive towards you or not, because sometimes you might not know. So really listen to what they're saying to you and ask yourself the question, would you be saying the same things to a good friend of yours or perhaps your son or daughter? Would you talk to them in this way? If the answer is no, maybe they're actually out of line. I'm not saying that they have bad intentions. Maybe in their world, they're genuinely trying to protect you and they're just speaking from how they see the world. It could be that their perspective is twisted and flawed. Yeah. So one very, very draining situation to be in is to be around someone that's highly critical. This can create a lot of anxiety, especially if you've had confidence issues. If you're not completely sure of who you are and someone starts to criticize you and put labels on you, it can really affect your self-esteem. You need to find a lot of inner strength to rise above that. What I would say is I would treat a critic like a YouTube troll. So, for example, let's say your auntie, it could be my dad, it could be anyone that's highly critical. They're throwing their criticism at you. They're saying that you're rubbish at this. You should do this instead. All these negative insults. If it's a YouTube troll, you wouldn't be reactive towards the troll. You wouldn't start an argument because that's just a lose-lose situation. You're going to come away feeling drained. Instead, you can be very, very classy, but not take on their opinion as reality. So you can say, I'm sorry that you feel this way. I'm sorry that you see things in this way. I appreciate you for giving me your perspective, but I'm going to continue to be myself and live my life in my way. You have a right to be your own person. And to quote the motivational speaker and coach Les Brown, don't let someone else's opinion of you become reality. So there's a great personal development book that I read quite some years ago. And it's probably, not probably, it is one of the best personal development books that I've ever read. Classic book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. If you've not read this book, 100% read it. The first chapter, really, really, really good. He talks about a concept called paradigms. And it's basically an internal map that you have. And through this internal map, that's how you view the world around you. And it's almost like you have a pair of glasses and there's a lens in those glasses. And what you see depends on this lens you have. That's your perspective. So some people, so say my dad, He's very, very kind, but he's a doom and gloom kind of person. So through his lens, it's like a horror lens, and he sees the world as a very, very, very scary, very dangerous, and very sad place. That's how he literally sees the world because of his lens and his internal map. So he interacts with other people through this lens because that's literally how he sees reality. But I have a different lens. I like to enjoy my life, be positive, be happy. And, the way I see it, we're lucky to have an opportunity to experience life as a human in modern times. So much to be appreciative of. So rather than focus on what we don't have, why not make the most of what we do have because time's short? So that's an interesting example, Taran. So unfair comparisons between you and somebody else. And interestingly, the first chapter of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the author talks about how he would, at the start, when he was younger, he would unfairly compare his son to other classmates, to other people in his class. And he used to think, my son isn't intelligent, he's not good at sport, he lacks this, he lacks that. But then he realized that his perspective and his lens was the problem, not his son. And when he started to challenge his own worldviews, he saw his son differently, and he recognized the natural strengths and talents that his son has. And he started to nurture those natural strengths and natural talents because we're all wired differently, and realized that his son was actually brilliant at certain things. And by nurturing these qualities, his son actually became very, very, very good academically and very, very, very good at sport. So his lens was the problem, and he learned to stop comparing his son to other people in a negative way. So something from improv comedy that also ties in here is that your normal and ordinary is somebody else's genius. I am reading every word you're saying, Taran, as well. Your normal and ordinary is somebody else's genius. And what this means is that if you're in a social group or an improv comedy scene, you might hear other people providing their value, and you might start comparing yourself to these people. You might think, how come this guy is so witty? I can't compete with that. This girl, she's so knowledgeable. I don't have that knowledge. And you might start to doubt your own value. But the truth is that everybody's wired differently. Everybody thinks differently. And what's normal and ordinary to you, the easy and obvious thing for you to say, is viewed as genius in other people's eyes. So your unique value, when you provide that, other people think that's amazing. I would never be able to think of that. So making unfair comparisons between yourself and other people is mean, because you have your strengths, they have their strengths. It doesn't mean that any person's better than someone else, probably equal, but just different. So nitpicking, being overly critical, that's their weakness. Maybe they're overcritical to themselves, and through their lens, they have this biased lens that they view the world through. And probably you're being underestimated. So maybe your auntie, she's not seeing your unique value and your unique strengths. That's a failure on her part, short-sightedness. But the important thing is that you can learn to see and recognize your own strengths and your own talents and have confidence in them. And so much confidence that You don't need that other person to validate them. You know that you're talented in your own way, and you know that you can believe in yourself. Even if someone doubts you, if someone's a hater, you can succeed in spite of the hate. So the truth is that, as cheesy as this sounds, haters are never going to go away. There's never going to be a world with no haters, no rude people, no criticism. That's completely unavoidable fantasy, doesn't exist in the real world. But what is possible? Succeeding in spite of criticism. So I do relate to a lot of what you're saying. Making it out that things are your fault when they're not your fault. I mean, that is highly manipulative, and that sounds like it would fall into the category of gaslighting, making someone think they're stupid when they're not. And actually, one of my insecurities that I've done a good job of beating is around my intelligence. And because I used to get corrected so much, even to the extent where I put a plate on a table, it's moved an inch to the left. I take a bin out, it's moved an inch to the right, like it's wrong. I used to think that I was just really stupid and really incompetent. Wasn't true, but I used to think that. So the truth is that what I can say, Taran, is that you're not stupid. You're actually highly articulate. Even the first time I spoke to you, it was like the words you were saying, the sentences, it was almost like they were coming from someone with 20 years more life experience. Really, really, really tough. Unsolicited advice. And the problem with these things is that they're stopping you, or they're not stopping you, but they're making it harder for you to live your life and follow your path. Because ultimately, you are your own person. And the reason that you know that these behaviors aren't good, because it can be confusing when you're hit with so many different dynamics and behaviors, like criticism from this person, unsolicited advice here. You're like, what do I do? What's the right path? You know, because you have the gut instincts. If you spend time around somebody, you feel drained, your gut, there's that yucky feeling. You know that that person is not right for you. That person is not helping you. Because if that was a good person, you wouldn't come away feeling yucky. You wouldn't have those negative gut feelings. Your gut knows, your body knows that the gut instinct is there for a reason, and you're supposed to listen to your body. And you've come to the right conclusion. So you can't please everybody. Some people, no matter how hard you try, they're always going to find things to nitpick. And what you've done is actually smart, because you can only control the controllables. And even the Buddhist prayer, this is about learning what you can control, learning what you can't control, and just not worrying about the things that you have no control over. If somebody is always going to criticize and hate no matter what you do, there's nothing you can do to stop this person behaving in this way. So there you go. Because you're a human, it's impossible to be perfect. And if whatever you do is not good enough in the eyes of those people, they have these impossible standards. You don't need to make any effort to please these people or be controlled by how they're going to react to you. You don't need their validation for you to succeed in your life. So the challenge is to start worrying about what these people think of you and focus on what you think of yourself. What are your values? What's the kind of person that you want to grow into? All you really have to do is please yourself. So for me, I really value confidence, believing in myself. I value honesty, conversation skills, being a good person, and being good at helping other people out. I value all these qualities, health and fitness, and I really work on them. So you're right, these people are self-centered. And what that means is that you don't like selfish people because you're not a selfish person. So what you're saying there is that you don't like selfish people, but you do like people that are empathetic, and you do like people that have gratitude, appreciate, people that are genuine. So the qualities that you like, you want to embody those qualities. So it's important that you like yourself. That's so much more important than having other people like you. You have to like yourself. And the qualities that you like in other people, you can embody those in yourself. And I'm sure from these family members, there will be some positive qualities, even if there's some negative ones as well. And if you can just learn to embody the positive qualities from different people and use them as an example of a human, you go, okay, this person has a great sense of humor. This person is a good listener. This person has lots of knowledge. I totally agree. So when you go through these kind of challenges where you're being put down by family members and it makes you feel insecure, it can make you very introspective. So you start to become quite sensitive because you feel you have to be, and you really question yourself. Am I good enough? Do I need to tweak this behavior of mine or tweak that behavior? And it can make you, like you said, overthink, trying to please people and saying, is this right? Is this behavior going to make them happy or not? So many challenges can come from this. But the truth is that now you know as an adult that these people were impossible to please from the beginning. I'd love to say that there's a formula to please all the people and not have to worry about this, but I'd be being a bad coach and lying to you, because a leopard doesn't change its spots. And no matter how hard you try, you can't please everybody. And some people have crazy standards and values that you could never live up to. But what's awesome is that you can decide on the values that are important to you, and you can live up to your values and not worry about what other people think of you. So what I would say about you, Taran, from the time we've spent together, the first thing is you're very articulate. You're a good speaker. You're also a good listener as well. You have empathy, kind, genuine. You have a sense of humor as well. You're very much a people person. You're good at making friends. People trust you. You've lent people money in the past and they've paid you back, of course. So people trust you, and you have these qualities already. I think there are some qualities. And the people that are criticizing you, they don't have these qualities that you have. Maybe they're threatened by the fact that you're actually a good person. Yeah. And the truth is that you can't trust all people, because if the outcome is they're going to make it feel like you're wrong, you're a bad person, you can't trust those people. I remember my mentor, he said to me, the unfortunate truth about life is that there are wolves out there. There are people that, when given a chance, will attack you, will turn things against you. So a great value, a great ability to have is to work out who you can trust in life and who you can't trust. And with the people you can trust, of course you can be open. Of course you can share vulnerabilities. I'm sharing some of my vulnerabilities in this live stream now. So you can be vulnerable and open up and talk about your challenges as well as what's going well with the right people. But you can't do it with the wrong people, especially if they're going to use it against you. You know that you can't open up with these people. And what that means is that you have to keep it surface level and not involve your emotions too much. So keep it as light as possible, laugh and joke, lightness, and minimize the time you spend with these people. Because it's unfair for you to be being drained by somebody. It should be a win-win situation. You feel good, they feel good. It shouldn't be them taking from you. The reason that people do this is because they have pain from their past that they've not been able to overcome and handle, and they take their pain out on other people. That's literally what's happening. But because you're a good person, even though you have these challenges, you're not taking them out on other people. Expressing your challenges and talking about them is very, very, very different from taking them out on somebody else. Taking them out on somebody else is almost blaming that person, being aggressive towards them, and holding them responsible. But expressing and talking about your problems is actually a sign of strength. So when I'm talking about my challenges, you probably don't feel burdened by them because I take 100% responsibility for my own challenges. And I appreciate people for listening, but don't expect them to fix my problems. So the mindset and approach is different. So I would never take out my pain on somebody else because I don't think that's right. But people that do that, as soon as you see a sign of them doing that, you can't trust that person. It means that they've basically sunk into victimhood rather than being the hero. They've let their challenges in life beat them, and their response is to be bitter about the fact that they've been defeated and take it out on other people. That's very, very true. If something's outside of your control, why worry about it? That's great advice. Totally agree with that. Simplifying your focus. Really, really important. So yeah, as I was saying before, I don't agree with people that take their pain out on other people. It comes from bitterness. To steal a phrase from a guy I used to follow on YouTube and got a lot of value from, Julian Blank from RSD. He used to say, get better, not bitter. So when you're faced with challenges in life, rather than have the challenges beat you and become bitter and angry, hold on to resentment and start to blame people, choose to get better and learn what you can learn and take responsibility. As hard as it is, it's the best path. You don't want to become those people that you despise. So if you don't like the behavior of your auntie and she's taking out her problems on you and being critical and gaslighting, you don't want to become that person. So that means that you have to find that strength to beat the challenges. And that's incredibly hard because you're facing challenges and you're taking a level of responsibility where you're saying, wow, it's on me to fully overcome this. That's so hard. And it's going to require a lot of inner strength. Maybe you have to go to the levels where you're thinking, well, I can't spend one-on-one time with this person. one-on-one time equals negativity, I have to spend time with them in groups only. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, even me relating to what you're saying there. So when I was growing up, um, I guess I hung out with some of my dad's friends from time to time, as well as my dad. But I didn't really have that many friends in high school, just a couple, and had none in college. And my problem was that I was taking on pain from my parents. I didn't know what to do. I was just listening to their problems and being drained, and I'd feel down, depressed, anxious, all these things. And because I'd taken on so much pain, I would basically go to high school and I'd want a break from people. So I would isolate myself from every single person just to have that me time. And I was scared of people. I thought I couldn't trust people. Um, so I literally isolate myself. And I didn't realize at the time that the isolation would cause its own set of problems, including social anxiety, depression. So I was in this trap where I was in shutdown mode when I was at my parents' house. And then in high school, I was also in shutdown mode. So I felt like I just was surrounded by those kind of behaviors that you're talking about, whether it's gaslighting or just general complaining, criticism. I felt I was just surrounded by these behaviors and didn't have anywhere to go. So I felt very, very, very trapped. And getting away from toxic people and spending less time with them and getting around more uplifting people is life changing. That's very, very interesting. So you're see, I told you that you're articulate and you're making points that I would never think of. So that's the unique value that you're providing. The way you're thinking is different to the way I'm thinking. And that means we're having a really productive dialogue. So I do have a younger brother. And I think that me being an older brother kind of buffered him a bit and protected him on some level, which is good. But I get what you're saying, Taron. So being an only sibling, you don't really have, you don't have siblings to talk to. So you spend a lot of time talking to yourself and being introspective. The value of that, I mean, that is the reason why you're so articulate. Because you spent so much time thinking over things and processing, you've actually learned a lot and you've kind of clarified and condensed that information, consolidated it. So you've been learning on quite a deep level. And that's why you have these really well thought out and different points because of the amount of time you spent being introspective. Quite a lot of people, especially more extroverted people, they don't spend that much time being introspective, so they can't think like this. And that's absolutely true. If there was no value exchange, all relationships would just die out. It's always a value exchange. There's something that you're bringing to the table, something that they're bringing to the table. So even now, like you wouldn't be on this YouTube live stream if there wasn't some value that you was receiving from it. And same with me, I wouldn't be on this live stream if I wasn't getting some value from it. So you're receiving value, but in my opinion, a good person and a strong person is also giving value. So in my case, I look for win-win situations. So it's a win for me and a win for other people. This is the optimum. I'm not looking for win-lose situations where I'm winning but at the expense of somebody else, because that doesn't sit right with me. So I have high levels of empathy. You might say that I'm an empath, so I'm very high on the empathy spectrum. And that means that for me, it has to be a win-win for me to feel good. So if I'm selfishly winning, that wouldn't work because I would feel really, really selfish. But if I'm winning and someone else is winning, that's like a double win for me. And I think some of the reasons that I have the empathy is because of challenges I've been through. And because of that, I've experienced the pain, overcome a lot of pain, and I know what it's like, so I can relate to other people. And that's really become the motivator that led to me becoming a coach, helping other people out from my experience. Yeah, exactly. And the way I view it is the win-win social interactions. It's like a higher level of humanity. To me, just taking and being selfish is like a lower level of humanity. It feels like going back to the dark ages, going back to times where people are really, really poor and they're in that mindset, a scarcity mindset. Like there's a limited amount of resources, so must take and keep for myself, that kind of mindset. But it's much better to have an abundant mindset. Great, there's plenty, we can all have a piece of the pie. We can all help each other out, sharing, being cooperative. That's a much better paradigm, a much better way to live, in my opinion, than being selfish and focused on taking. The win-win paradigm. And it feels good as well. Sometimes when you get caught up in challenges and you're feeling down, you might think, how do I get myself back into a strong place? How do I get myself out of the victim complex? And the answer is giving. Giving bypasses the ego. And don't apologize. I actually like the messages. I love to improvise. You know that I do improv comedy. So the more interactive my videos, the better. Because, like I was saying, it's not about my ego and my ideas. It's really about allowing the truth to come out. Very, very, very. Yeah, I agree with what you were saying. Very interesting point. So we all have our own different challenges. So you're saying that from what I'm gathering from your messages and our conversations, for you it seems that the problem is more extended family as opposed to parents. Is that, am I correct in saying that? So of course, we all have challenges with our parents, but are you saying that in your case it's more aunties and uncles and other family members that are like the main challenges? And one thing that I'm grateful for, that I'm lucky about, is my culture. So I know that in certain cultures, it's common to live with your parents even after marriage. And I can imagine that when you're very, very tied into the family structure, and there's a lot of family gatherings happening just all the time, left, right, and centre, then challenges with certain family members become a real problem in your life. Whereas when you're living away from your family and visiting, it's quite a different dynamic. Visiting from time to time is very different from frequently seeing somebody. Something that I often say is that most people are fine in the right dosage. Some people you want to have in short doses, and that's perfect. Win-win for both parties involved. Other people are good to have in longer doses. They're not as tiring, not as draining, and you can spend more time with them. You have to learn the amount of time that is good for you to spend with different people and stick to what works. Different for everybody. Maybe with certain people, you can visit them for a few hours, but you don't want to stay much longer than that. And I usually find that I can handle pretty much anyone's company for a couple of hours, providing that I'm prepared and fresh. But if it gets to 3 days, 4 days, obviously that's a very, very different matter. And if you have 2 hours with somebody, then quite a bit of me time, that's very, very, very different from having 2 hours with one person and then immediately spending time with somebody else and not having breaks in between. So getting people in the right doses, right dosage is really important. And I really enjoy doing the live streams because it's different every single time. Yeah. So basically, other family members are acting as a buffer when you're with your auntie and uncle, because it just changes the group dynamic, and you're not being exposed to that negative behavior that you would be exposed to if it was just you and them. And the truth is, like, you know by now that negative behavior from them is never going to stop. So really, you have to find a way to spend less like one-on-one time with them and spend time with them in a group, but when it becomes one-on-one, make an excuse to leave early. Yeah. Really, really important. And that was really my downfall when I was younger, was taking on the baggage of other people, as well as my own challenges. And the truth is that it's not fair for other people to suck you into their drama, especially without your consent, and to dump their baggage on you. But then on the flip side, they're just talking about their challenges. And I think the key is to know what your responsibility is and what your responsibility isn't. So their challenges are their problems. And maybe the right thing for you to do is just to listen, but don't worry about trying to fix their problems. And sorry, Tarun, I read the first half of that message, and then I didn't see the second half. So it was about how you now approach relationships with people. I apologize for not seeing the last sentence, but the gist I got is that you're trying to find people that where there's a win-win situation. And something that's important to ask, as obvious as it sounds, with most people is, what's their agenda? You know, why is it that they're speaking to you? What is the purpose of them being over there? Are they just over there to have a nice friendly chat and connect? In which case, great. That sounds like fun. Or do they have a hidden agenda? An analogy that comes to mind that I learned from actually a new friend that I've made. So I made friends with a security guard who works at Tesco's. A funny story that I'll tell you sometime, and his wife as well, Safi. Both really nice people. And she said that sugar and salt, they look the same, but they taste very, very different. So just because somebody looks like a nice person they're charming, they're polite, they're having a laugh and joke, that doesn't mean that they're sweet. Doesn't mean that they don't have a hidden agenda. So working out someone's agenda is really, really important. And also, if you have an agenda yourself, it's nice to be upfront about this so the other person is in the light, they know, and that way there's no subtle manipulation going on. Because if someone's got an agenda, they're going to want to manipulate you to please their agenda. And really, that's where you have to trust your gut instincts. So usually when someone's behaving in a manipulative way towards you, logically, you might not see it, but if you feel yucky, your body's telling you it's wrong. And what you've done is you've come to a very sensible conclusion where that person is not adding value to your life, they're taking value, and the way you know this is because you feel drained. So your own body is telling you that there's some manipulation going on. That person's got an agenda, and they're basically pleasing their agenda at your expense, and you feel used in some way. You feel drained. It's like you've literally had that energy, that human energy, taken away. So when you trust your gut feeling, you have to have the courage to not abandon yourself, to trust your gut, and to make decisions and say, this person, they're always draining me. Don't leave me feeling good. I can cut them out of my life. I'm going to do it. I like that. Very, very, very smart. So the positive of you going through these challenges, Taran, and it may be hard to see all the positives right now, but you're a young guy. And the way I see it is it's like a sped up learning process. So you've learned at a young age what a lot of people would have to spend many more decades actually learning. Great. So you've learned so much because of the experiences you've had, and it's now quite advanced what you're doing. You're basically saying that you're not obliged to see certain people, especially toxic people, and if you do visit them, you can manage the environment you're in. Maybe if they're out for a meal or out for a coffee with you, it's better than being at their house. And also you can have a time limit. So let's say it's 1 hour. When you arrive there, what you can do is say to them that I can only stay for an hour today because I've got a gym session booked afterwards. I've got to meet up with a friend later on. And then when it's getting near an hour, you can call back to that thing you said at the start, that seed you planted, and you can say, so I will have to make tracks now and visit my friend. And you can leave. And I'm glad to now know that what the main problem is for you. Yeah. And that is the impression that I've got. So when I was first working with you, I'll be honest, I thought the main challenge that you were having was with your parents. That's what I thought the main challenge was. But with more and more time and more conversations, it's become more clear that it's actually extended family that are presenting you with the biggest challenges. And it's like you're handling the usual challenges with your parents pretty well. And that isn't really, it's a side issue. It's great that you've made more progress since doing the mentorship with more boundaries, and dealing with family is one of the hardest things in life, because it's almost like if you were, let's say you was living by yourself, hypothetically, and you didn't spend much time with toxic people, it's like you're neutral. So all the coaching stuff's positive, and it's getting you into uplifting places, getting you to overcome your emotional challenges, face fears, get more confident, get fit and healthy, all these positive things. But if you're spending time around toxic people, it's like you're moving forwards, but having these challenges that are knocking you back at the same time. So yeah, dealing with difficult family, super challenging. But I'm pleased that you're getting better with your boundaries. Not an easy subject at all. Boundaries take years to get right. I've realized this. And actually, I have enough time to read the messages now because I'm starting to spot them quicker. So yeah, I think you're doing a good job, and you are also focusing on the controllables. For me, having tools to pick yourself up after you fall down, let's say, or feel bad, that's really important. And going for a run, getting some exercise in, that's a great tool. Going and speaking to a friend and having an honest chat, that's a great tool. And you made a very, very good point. So the truth is that you're not responsible for other people's feelings. Of course, if you insult somebody and they get angry, of course you've caused the anger. But their feelings, and I have the empathy as well, so I do relate. Other people's feelings, that's not your responsibility. You can't control their feelings. Even they can't control their feelings. So taking that on as your responsibility is like fighting a losing battle. So even as a coach, I always say that I can only help somebody change who wants to change. Somebody that's committed to changing. If somebody's not committed to improving their life, doesn't matter how good my coaching is, they're going to get mediocre results. So I can't change my parents because they're not doing coaching. They're not committed to changing their lives. And that's fine. That's their choice. You don't have to change your life. So other people, they don't have to change their feelings. Even if they feel sad, angry, down, it is their choice to feel that way. It's okay for them to feel that way. And it's not your responsibility to take on their pain. What you can do is listen to them. That's a great way to help them out. Just focus on listening, being supportive, but know that you don't have to change them. If they really, really want to change, they can. And you're right. So being a people pleaser would be having an agenda. Manipulation. Because really, you're trying to get some validation from other people, which we all do to some extent, but it's such an extreme where you're manipulating how other people see you. You're not being honest, you're not being yourself, you're dancing to other people's drum in order to get some validation. And the thing is, say with your auntie and uncle that have these crazy standards, you can't please those people. And you don't need to please those people. You can just be yourself and you can please yourself. If you want to be, this is like a sort of a joke that comes from RSD. They say that you can be like an entertaining dancing monkey, but not for other people, for yourself. Do things for you. So the traits that you value and respect in somebody else, develop those traits in yourself. Your relationship with yourself, that's the most important relationship that you have in your life. How you think of yourself, that's way more important than how your uncle and auntie think of yourself. So deciding what's important for you is really important. Yeah. So whatever it is, you're trying to take something from somebody else by people pleasing, so it's taken. And the other person, they would feel drained. And they have a right to feel drained because it feels like they have to give false validation. That's what you're asking for with the people pleasing. But instead, if you're just giving value, that's different than people pleasing. Giving value and trying to help somebody else out, that's strong. And the other person doesn't feel drained as a result. And you're not expecting anything back. You're just genuinely giving. That's different because it's two people giving. That's a different dynamic than people pleasing, which is more basically people pleasing is a lack of self-love and trying to get that love from somebody else that you're struggling to give to yourself. And I think challenges with parents is something which is crazily common. And even my mentor says that it's something that not everybody has, but a lot of people have. Very, very, very few people talk about it. So a lot of people go through life thinking, how come I have challenges with my parents? Is it just me? Like, am I the only one having these challenges? But there's people all around the country having all kinds of challenges with their parents. So it is actually surprisingly common, but it's surprisingly rare for people to openly talk about it. And when I openly talk about it, I'm being honest, I'm not criticizing my parents. There's a lot of good qualities, a lot of things that I appreciate. And the ultimate for me that I'm still striving towards is to really appreciate and take on their good qualities, but protect myself from the negative qualities that I don't want to take on. So it's a continuous process. And you said an interesting point there. So most people are doing the best they can based on what they know. And the truth is that if you go back one generation, two generations, you go back to your parents, they've not had access to the same resources that we have access to. They didn't go on YouTube as a kid. The internet wasn't even around. They didn't read personal development books or have mentorship. It's very, very, very true. And see, such an articulate point. And an example that comes to mind on the topic that you're kind of bringing up. So, say, like the Batman villain, the Joker. So, if you watch the Joker, as in like the film, you're actually on the Joker's side because you're seeing it from his perspective. From his perspective, he's been through so much pain and you feel sorry for him. And when he starts to rebel, you're cheering him on like, it's about time he stood up for himself and finally he's doing it. Finally he's being brave. In his own eyes, he's being the hero. But to other people, from an outside perspective, actually being a villain. So a lot of people, some people probably are real villains and they know they're villains. But a lot of people, most people, they're genuinely doing the best they can based on what they know. And because they've not had access to the kind of personal development that we have, the way they see the world is just biased. So trying to change you, that is a toxic trait. And it comes from this. So like your DNA, right? You will have seen this in another video of mine. You're programmed to stay alive. So you can always live to reproduce another day. Survival is the number one priority. So your genetics, the programming is for you to survive. And because your parents produce you and you have their DNA, their programming is the same as yours. It's for you to survive because you have their DNA. So they care about your safety. That's their number one priority. And they prioritize that over your mental health. And they want you to change because they know themselves and they want you to be like them. Because in their mind, because they've been safe and lived so long, lived to such an age, they want you to stick to familiarity and be just like them because they see you being yourself as a risk. They see it as a risk because it's unknown territory, it's unfamiliar, and maybe there's danger there. So they want to try and change you and make you stay in your comfort zone, stay in your shell, so you're protected from the elements. But the problem with this is that if you was to take that on, you'd be so closed off and you'd feel anxious, depressed. And I wish I had the time to fully read that. And you was saying about where people pleasing comes from. You mentioned fear and manipulation. Yeah. So taking out anger and frustration on other people, that's a very, very, very toxic behavior. I'm not saying you can excuse these kind of behaviors because no matter what I went through, I'm not going to take out anger and frustration on my future children. I'm not going to do that. But parents, they might just not know how to deal with their own challenges. Maybe they've been through trauma, been through abuse. They have buckets of unresolved issues, don't know how to deal with them. And it's almost unconscious. They think they're just expressing themselves, but really they're taking and they're trying to fill a void. And probably it reflects how they see themselves. If they're angry and frustrated towards others, they're probably angry and frustrated towards themselves. And in a way, they're treating you like they're treating themselves. There's a lot of taboo subjects out there. So because you have your parents' DNA, the way I see it is they're treating you just like they're treating themselves. So the way they behave towards you, if they're very, very critical, for example, they're probably super self-critical as well. So it allows you to understand them quite well. The anger and frustration that they're taking out on you, they're also taking out on themselves. They're attacking themselves and harming themselves as well as harming you. So they're just behaving to you as they're behaving to themselves because they don't know any different. Or maybe they don't have the strength to act differently. They've basically been through some challenges, victim complex, never overcome it. You're right. So in an ideal world, you'd have the perfect boundaries worked out for all your family members. So maybe you spend 2 hours with your uncle and auntie in a group, then you spend several hours around other people, and you'd have these perfect boundaries. Then you could actually enjoy your time with your family, and the negative traits wouldn't be projected onto you so often. The good thing with a social network, a friendship network, is that you can choose your friends. So of course you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. And you can choose how you spend the rest of your time. And if you're getting around uplifting environments, like if you enjoy the gym, you're going to the gym, you're eating healthy, you're around good people, and you're pursuing your purpose in life, what that means is that even if certain family members are toxic and have negative behaviors, most of the time you're in environments where you're actually happy and you feel energized as a result of being there. So you can still live an overall positive lifestyle, even if you spend some time around negative behaviors. It's a balance. I remember a book that I read quite a number of years ago on mindfulness. And I'll get back to your point in a minute. So this book on mindfulness, and the guy was talking about people that get stressed out at work and feel drained. And he basically said that a really simple model that he uses is that certain activities are nourishing for you. You feel energized afterwards. Others are depleting. You feel tired and drained afterwards. And you want to do an audit on your life and work out what situations and what activities drain you, what ones recharge you, and try to balance your time out. So whenever there's a draining activity, you have a recharging one around the corner. But you made a good point before. So of course the Joker was bullied and picked on, and this led to lots of unresolved pain. And he brings it out later on, because what you can say, this requires a lot of strength, but it is true. So energy is energy, and it's all about how you use it. So pain from the past can be used to motivate positivity in the future. If you know David Goggins, so he's been through so many challenges in his life, so much abuse and trauma, and he uses that as a motivation to crush it in life. And it's, in a way, it's a shame that you can't just be fully open with no guard around your family, but it's just a reality. It's like a harsh truth of life. You have to protect yourself and take measures to do so around different people, even those that you're close to. You have to learn to look after yourself in this way. And when you do this, it makes you a strong person. It makes you someone that has a lot of value to give. The fact that you're a good person is valuable. And when you pair that with good boundaries, then you have great energy and you don't overgive and drain yourself. You get that nice sweet spot, that balance right. So yeah, it's so many challenges that people face in life, and most of them revolve around people. The vast majority of challenges do revolve around people. You have to work on that relationship that you have with yourself. Really, really, really important. Become the person that you really want to be. Live your best life. Learn how to deal with the different challenges, whether it's critical people, people that moan a lot, the people you have to be wary around. You have to succeed in spite of all these different challenges. But the good thing is you're out there in the arena taking action and growing. You're not in your comfort zone hiding away because you're scared of all these dangers. You're out there taking on challenges, growing as a person. So at least you can give yourself credit for being brave. And the good thing is, it doesn't get much tougher than having challenging family members. So yeah, what you're saying is that family structure makes a huge difference, and I totally agree. The good thing you could say is that the challenges with your family, they're training for the rest of life, because there is challenges you're going to face in all areas of life: personal, mental health, career, health and fitness, social, and the qualities you need to succeed are transferable between, I would say, all the different areas of life. You need to believe in yourself. You need to be brave. You need to have boundaries. You need to learn how to look after yourself. You need to be willing to commit and work on yourself, willing to change things, resilient. There's so many qualities, calm in pressured situations, dealing with different emotions in other people like anger. Be relentless, keep on going, learn how to pick yourself up when you're down. Don't worry about being triggered. Process different emotions that are bothering you. You need to learn all these different qualities and skills, because without them, things are just a lot tougher. But if you fully commit, you can usually make a lot of progress. And you're right. Your family network is not like your social network. You're more tied into it because blood's thicker than water. So yeah, and you're saying about different cultures, different family structures. So of course that makes a difference. And of course, as I said, in some ways I'm quite lucky because I can visit my family. But you do need to have the strength to not worry about being taboo. And this is, in my opinion, you have to be your own person and live your own life. And you can still interact with your family, but on your terms. And that's empowering. If I go back to that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the author talks about 3 different levels of like human social progression. The first is dependence, where you're needy and you depend on other people for validation, other people for food. You're basically a dependent person. The next level is independent. This is where you can fend for yourself. You don't need somebody else. You can get your own money, get your own food, validate yourself, all these different things. The third stage is interdependent. And this means that you can now interact with people, but in a win-win way, without taking on their problems and not needing anything from these people. You can act from a place of appreciation, where you appreciate other people, but you don't need anything from those people. And that's quite empowering, because now you're having a nice social chat without needing anything. So much more fun. And David Goggins is probably the best example that I can think of when it comes to how to turn your pain into power. So challenges that you might be facing with certain extended family members, you can turn that into motivation to succeed in all areas of life. You can use that to commit to going to the gym or getting fit and healthy. Crazy, but also highly successful. So he's used that pain from the abuse he's been through. He's used that energy because it is energy, and he's become a machine as a result of that. I'm not saying you have to go to that extreme, although I do admire it. But you can certainly learn from him as an example of a successful person, and you can take strength from his journey. And because you know that if he can go through such challenging times and use those challenges to achieve the success that he has, it gives you hope and strength that you can do the same. Goggins got through his challenges, so I can get through my challenges. So you can take a lot of strength from positive people that have turned their negativity into positivity. And that's the beautiful thing, is that that's what you're in control of. You can't choose how other people behave towards you, but you can choose how you respond to that. So if someone's negative towards you, you can't stop that. You can't go back in time and stop that. That already happened. But you can make a positive change as a result. Maybe you choose to spend less time with this person in future, and you can use the energy to focus on your exercise, your purpose in life, take action, face your fears. You can use it as reason to be more committed. It can reaffirm why you have to go further down the path of being yourself and living your best life. So the motivation, the haters, the critics, they're like sparring partners, and they motivate you to get stronger as a person because you have to. Ultimately, you're not faced with a choice. When you're around these people, often the only way to succeed is to become a lot stronger, which is not easy, but it's the only option. To manage your boundaries with these, have good boundaries with these people, managing your time and becoming stronger as well. So even though it's challenging, it can be a blessing in disguise. So it's true that only you truly know yourself. So other people can provide their opinions from their perspective, but of course that should be taken with a pinch of salt because of how they view the world. Very, very, very biased. I assume these are all David Goggins quotes. So yeah, it's all about how you respond to those challenges. And here's the crazy thing. So if you don't go through many challenges, you might just have a mediocre, ordinary life. If you go through lots of challenges, it can go one of two ways. Either the challenges just crush you and you have a miserable life where you're not feeling that great, you don't achieve that much, you throw the towel in. Or as a result of your challenges, you become super motivated and committed to beating them and achieving success, and you actually live a much better life than the average person. You achieve a lot more success, and actually that is partly due to the challenges you've faced. You've used that pain from the challenges to motivate a transformation in yourself and your life circumstances. So it really is about how you respond to it. It's like there's an evolutionary pressure being placed on you and you have to respond. You either get crushed by it or you get stronger as a result. It's like being given a weighted bar and you have to deal with it. And it's on you whether you get crushed by it and make no effort, or if you find that strength to beat it. Not saying it's easy, but ultimately I think it's the best way. And going back to Goggins, I know my mentor is a big fan of Goggins, and he talks about different interviews he's had. And people often ask him things like, all these challenges you've been through to get to where you are in life. I mean, was it really worth it? And Goggins just said, yeah. It's a very, very, very confident yes. 100% worth it. Of course, I have been through a lot of challenges to transform my life, then to build a coaching business. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Was it easy? No. It was hard, and it took years of hard work, and I had to go through a lot, but it's 100% worth it. And basically, something that I explain to people that I'm coaching is that there's two kinds of suffering: good suffering and bad suffering. Bad suffering is where you do nothing and just accept fate. I'm reading what you're saying. And if you just do nothing, anxiety, you don't make progress in life, you stagnate, you start to go down, and you suffer automatically as a result of doing nothing. Good suffering is when you go on your bike, you go to the gym, eat healthy, go to socials, push your comfort zone, overcome your challenges. You do things which are hard but lead you to a better place. You beat that inner resistance, the fears, the blockages, and that's your choice. Goggins is someone that chooses the good suffering, which is why his life's so much better now. And you playing Goggins videos in your mind to push you further, that's showing the value that you're getting from Goggins, which is great. That's the good suffering. So you have to pick one, good suffering or bad suffering, and I think you might as well pick the good suffering. Well, I go running on a regular basis, and there's definitely some very, very steep hills that I run past, and the motivation helps there. And of course, you feel good when you've conquered it afterwards. That's the reward you get for the good suffering. You feel good after suffering. Like you feel good after suffering at the gym. You feel good after suffering, facing your fear, growing in confidence, positive lifestyle changes. You feel good after doing these things, but you have to overcome the inner resistance to doing them in the first place. But yeah, going through challenges is a bad thing at the time, but ultimately, the challenges can be a blessing in disguise if you use them in the right way, if you respond to them in a positive manner. And that's what I do my best to embody and teach other people, because you can transform your life in a number of years if you work super hard and you're committed. Not easy, but it is doable. And it's so much better to be on this side of the equation than the previous side, to be in the position I'm in right now compared to the position I was in 3 years ago. So much better, and things keep on getting better the further I'm going down this path. And actually, Tarun, I'm excited to be doing my first podcast next Tuesday. So there's a company called Mind Valley that do personal development, and I'm very grateful to be on a guy's podcast from Mind Valley. Yeah. So I'm going to be on a podcast at 7 p.m. next Tuesday, and it's going to be on Instagram Live. This guy called Zishan. So, and then afterwards, it's going to be on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, and I'm going to be sharing my story of how I went from being a quiet person with social anxiety, depression in high school and college, turn things around. So I'm excited to be sharing my story on a podcast, which is good for my business. And so it's great for me. And also hopefully I can help out other people and I can give them some strength in the same way that Goggins gives lots of people strength. Because inner strength is what a lot of people need to overcome their challenges. to make them do the good suffering that they have to do to actually get results in life. If you don't have that inner strength, it's hard to stick to something long enough for changes to be made and quality results to happen. If you use health and fitness as an example, unless you're willing to stick to a diet, exercise plan for years, you might make some progress, but not a complete transformation. So inner strength is to help people overcome their own inner resistance. Madness, but it's true. So I'm going to end this live stream quite soon. Definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed both live streams today, the Instagram one and the YouTube one as well. And it's quite funny that I speak to Corey earlier and then you, Taryn, later on, both in the same day. But yeah, so I enjoyed this live stream. I'm going to break off now, chill out for the evening, and keep on going with more action taking tomorrow. And I can say the same as you. I've not been through the level of challenges that Goggins has. But we've both been through our own set of challenges, and it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that there's work to be done to turn things around. That's a nice extra point as well. And you really want to learn to minimize the suffering that you inflict on yourself, and also minimize the suffering that others inflict on you. And that's where the people boundaries, learning from experience comes in really, really important. And you don't need me to tell you this. You know that certain people will inflict suffering on you. And if you spend too much time around them, it could be almost unbearable. And that's why you have to have boundaries. It's an essential. And you have to get yourself around the right people that help you out in life. But yeah, I'm going to end this live stream now, get myself some supper, chill out, and make sure that I have another productive day tomorrow. A good mindset is to live one day at a time. Great for people with anxiety. Just live day by day, one day at a time. Also, as well, know that just because you took action today doesn't mean it's job done. You're going to have to also take action tomorrow. Every day is a fresh start. You have to beat your own inner resistance. You have to win the battle of you versus yourself every single day, day in, day out. So when tomorrow comes, you have to win tomorrow's battle. When the next day comes after that, you have to win that day's battle as well. So one day at a time. Don't worry more than that. And you have to keep on doing the good suffering. Absolutely. The good suffering leads to lots of pleasure. The bad suffering maybe could be addictive, but not. Yeah. Okay, so what you're talking about is, so the good suffering leads you to a better place in life overall, long-term results over a quick high, a quick dopamine buzz. Whenever I'm coaching somebody, I always focus on the long-term progress of that person rather than the short-term, because that's going to help them out more. So I'll leave it after responding to this. Great point. So a good mindset is when you're going through a painful time now, know that it's going to lead to a lot of euphoria and good feelings down the road. As cheesy as it sounds, I can even quote Tupac right now when he says, "After every dark night is a brighter day." So no challenge ever lasts forever. Whenever you get triggered and you feel down, it's never chronic. It always goes away. You always bounce back. So yeah, the good suffering is the best path that I know for overall growth in life, long-term results, and this is my chosen strategy for making more progress in my life and what I teach and encourage clients to do as well. So I teach the best that I know, and as I evolve more, my teaching will of course evolve as well. So it's been nice chatting, Tarun. Very much enjoyed catching up via this live stream. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm now going to get myself some food.